Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and I thought I would show you. I had to sort out how I was going to be setting up my sort of intentional focus Midori, and part of that included what I'm doing with my Wheel of the Year and Year Ahead spread. And so I thought I would kind of do a run through that so that you could see what you might, some suggestions on what you might do to, if you do Year Ahead spreads or Wheel of the Year spreads for yourself, or get them done for you, like how some ways in which you might be able to keep up with those and set something up so that it works for that. So it's kind of a combo, how to set up a Midori with really 6 items in it, which was, takes some thinking through, but then also, how you might be able to use a journal or something like that to keep up to date with and keep track of this. Now, the journal idea, so I've been doing Wheel of the Year for myself for a few years. I've been doing Wheel of the Year more than I've done a year ahead. This year I've actually decided to do both. So I have a year ahead, which is January through December of 2019 with the Goliath Tarot. And then I've done a Wheel of the Year starting at the winter solstice and going around to Samhain with the animal knowledge card, so being more of an animal energy. And so I think the combination of those two is going to be quite lovely. And I'm already enjoying, I've been sitting with Swan since the winter solstice. And so I generally, one of my key things that I've learned over the couple years is making sure that you have them out and visible. And that doesn't mean it has to be with the deck that you drew them with. So if you're really loving a particular deck that month, you can set out the card of the, so my card of the year is the Emperor card. My card for January is the Fool card. So these 2 cards will sit out for January, and then obviously crossing that over that, going from the winter solstice to the winter's peak, the cross quarter of winter in beginning of February, Swan energy is going to be in place. So I'm going to have some version of these 3 cards out and up where I can actually see them. So one year I had them upright so that I could, anywhere where I was at in my apartment, which is, a small apartment, in my living room, dining room area, sort of one space, I could see those and reference those in my head and touch bases with those energies. Now, last year, I had them in a circle of crystals, and that I found was beautiful. And I looked into it and saw that when I was over at my table doing any kind of workings, but it wasn't actually the best setup for being constantly in touch with what those energies were for the month. And so this year I'm switching back to having them, making sure that they're upright and visible. And as I said, you can pull the Emperor or the Fool card or Swan from a variety of different decks, not just the one that you started with. So it's just really great to have that key in and just keep reminding myself all year of Emperor energy. And in January, keep reminding myself it's a fresh start, right? It's a new beginning. And sitting with Swan energy so that I'm just in touch with that over and over again and don't lose track of it. So those are the things that I found that worked and or didn't work for me in the past. Now, one of the things that I haven't done a lot of is sort of kept track of what, sort of how did the Swan energy helped me during that time period, or by the end of the year, what was spending a year with the Emperor? What kind of impact did that have? Or for the month of January, by the end of January, what did the Fool energy do for me, or how did that impact me in any way? So I haven't really done that sort of an assessment thing, which is something I want to do this year. Now, my friend Patrick, who has I'll have to see if they're still up on his channel. If they are, I will link them. He has some videos on year aheads and how he approaches year aheads, but he definitely journals about his year ahead. And so I've definitely taken a page out of his book to try to sort of have that retrospective. I have an overarching by the end of the year retrospective of it, but kind of keeping track for it that mindfully month by month is something that I want to incorporate in this year. So come enter in now I have a full-size Midori, which I love. That generally houses, I'm in the midst of restructuring that, but that generally is like sort of my giant little white book. So it would hold my divination, little white book that has everything in it about that. This is my geomancy, focus on geomancy, and so those kinds of things go in my full-size Midori. So Patrick actually gave me a passport size Midori for Christmas. Thank you very much, Patrick. He knew that I really wanted one. And so I'm so excited to be able to use this for an intentional year. So I do a lot of readings for other people because I'm a professional reader. And one of the things that I found as a professional reader is that when I do readings for myself and things of that nature, I do a lot of readings for myself. There are a lot of quick readings and I just kind of, okay, get the message and I move on. And I want to be slightly more intentional. All of 2018 was very much an intentional year for my personal practice. And I've loved the results of that. And so 2019, one of my focuses is to keep a little bit more track intentionally of my readings and things like that for myself. And so I wanted to work, so that was kind of the cornerstone of this, is sort of my general things that I want to do in my practice and my divination on a personal level, to make sure that I don't lose that personal connection. So everything's kind of set up for that. Is going to be set up for that in here. Now, he did give me some fantastic Midori inserts, but because I know exactly what I want, and I really wanted it to all fit in, I ended up wanting 5 books and a folder. I ended up getting this Taroko design paper because it has the Tomo River 68 GSM paper in it, and it's really beautiful. I'd heard about it being wonderful to work with fountain pens, which was part of my Christmas Midori fountain pen. And I also use for my bullet journal, I have a Pilot carbon fountain pen that I use and absolutely love. And I'd heard that this paper was supposed to be really thin but amazing paper, and thin, so you get the same amount of sheets, but then the whole thing is a lot thinner. And so Midori does have one insert that has that real thin paper that's beautiful as well, although you do get some ghosting with this a little bit. Did I write in this one? Yeah. So for example, here is that, and you can see it, but not much. It's really not bad for how thin this paper is. It's quite beautiful. So that one I'm keeping as sort of just random musings. So I'm keeping that, but the other ones are all this, and I'm also a big fan of grid paper. So I'm keeping this Tomo River paper because it keeps everything thin. So what I'm ending up with are 5 inserts, plus I picked up a craft folder. And so what they are going to be, this one is going to be my, all of my Wheel of the Year, year ahead, as well as sort of keeping track of readings that I do throughout the year. So this is going to sort of be my divinatory book. I have just random musings, like I started out with on 12/21 when I did my year ahead. I pulled a rune for the year and I actually picked Naughties, which is about need, but it's also a restriction, but it's also about the ability for healing for that. And I literally put it back. I'm like, no, I don't want to spend a year working with Naughties. Like, I just don't want to do this. And, you know, I'm coming off the holidays, which are difficult when you've lost someone. And so I was just like, no, I put it back and I pulled them all out, and I started to just really shuffle. I'm like, no, I'm gonna really put my energy into pulling out what I really need to work with, because I don't want to work with that one. And I pulled Naughties again. And so I put in here, we may try to avoid what we need to work on, but it will insist, just do the work. Right? Just random things that, you know, strike me that I want to keep track of. I don't journal large journals, but little quick things. Okay, yeah, I can do that. So those are the first two books. Then I'm putting in a craft folder just so that I have a place to stick little pieces of paper, that kind of things. And in there is actually going to be my personal, like, working. So when I'm making up salts or special blends or my Kelly's water, that kind of stuff. It's just sort of specifically for kind of tracking, working things, setting intentions, that type of thing. It's going to go in there. So that's the first three plus craft folders. This little clip, I recommend. I have like the little tab you can get for Midori's to be able to put your pen in. I struggle to get the pen in and out of it. It's just, to me, clunkier than it needs to be. So using these little clips like this, I've done this on my larger one as well, but using a clip like those like office clips, it works really well if you have, you know, this thing just to be able to slide in there, and then I wrap the band around it and it holds it really well. So I put that on the craft folder because the folder is nice and sturdy. So that's there. And then this is a set of books that are going to be kind of, I have my own bullet journal that I use, but that's really practical, listing what do I got to do today kind of things, where I'm doing one going from some winter solstice all the way through. That's going to be a lot more about sort of intentionally walking the wheel, days that are important, things of that nature. So it's kind of a calendar, but it's meant for focusing on intentional living. So those are the books that I'm going to be using that need to go into this. Now, it's going to be a squeeze, and at first there's going to be a little overlap, but Midori's are beautiful leather, and they tend to accommodate and stuff like that and get aged beautifully. So eventually these will seat in there even better as I go. Turn off my phone. But, you know, you have to stop and think. Oh, the other thing I did do was tie on a quartz and obsidian bead. Those are energies that I really like to work with, and so I tied that on the bookmark that comes into the Midori. I didn't want anything too big or bulky, but I liked the idea of having something on there because it's quite a lightweight little string. It came with a camel color, or I think a brown or camel color, or green. I am a green person, so of course I had to put green on there. So this is how your Midori comes, minus beads on it. And so you have one of these bands to be able to work with to make your to make everything go in. But of course, when you are putting in multiple things, you need to be kind of thinking about how you're going to put those together. So to put in these 5, what I need to make use of are these bands that you can get from Midori, either for the large ones or the passport. It all works the same whether it's a large or a passport size. And you need to, so in this case, I'm going to have 2 over here, 2 over here, and then this kind of in the middle here. And so the first thing you have to do is bind together two of them. So if you were just doing a single Midori, it's pretty simple because you literally just, you know, slide it through the band. it goes into the middle, and there you have a very, I don't know who would do that. I don't think you would get a Midori if that's all you wanted to do was one. If you want to do two, which is certainly more apt that would happen, you bind them together by finding the middle of each book and putting one of these bands right around it, which I'll show you in a second, and effectively putting them together into one booklet, and then that being what you slide through here, and then you have now two booklets that are bound together. Now you could stick with that and put two booklets like that, and take, say, a craft folder and slide the craft folder through like that, and then you could have a craft folder in the middle of the two. And then you could also take, like I'm going to do, and take another booklet and put that through the craft folder, and now you've got three booklets and a craft folder there. Right, so there's just different configurations that you can do depending on what it is that how many you're trying to accomplish. But I'm trying to accomplish 5. So I've hooked together these two, which are going to be at the back. Now I need to hook together these two, which are going to be the front two booklets. So I'm just taking one of these bands and I'm hooking it together and opening them up and kind of, doing that. They tend to start to pretty quickly, lay the way they need to lay. It's not too difficult, but you can go back in and just sort of make sure you don't have it all whopper-jawed. And then kind of tug them apart to get them nice and neat. So now I have the two parts that I want to go on either side, but I need to connect them so that I can slide them under. So you're taking now the whole second book actually, and the whole third book, and we're going to bind those together. So now I have the 4 booklets bound together like that. And I'm going to slide those underneath here. And there are lots of things on how to do this. But I have talked about Midoris before, and so I thought I'd do a quick. So now I have those bound together through that. And so then lastly, I'm going to take these, I'm going to pull that central band back out and slide that in between, because that is going to go between the two of them. And like I said, at first they are definitely going to stick out a little bit as they have to start to get accommodated. A, I don't mind it that they stick out a little bit, and B, it will start to stretch. The leather will start to stretch and accommodate this as it goes. These just age beautifully. They get nicked up, they get worn, and they just get more amazing as the longer that you have them. And so these will eventually sort of settle into place, and then my pen can go right here. Oops, let's stick that in here, and the whole band can go around it and kind of keep the pen a little bit snugly. And now I have this beautiful Midori journal that is all focused on sort of my intentional practice. And the great thing about this that made my heart sing was that this actually fits in my herbal place on my shelves where all my herbs and essential oils and things are. This fits into the cubicle just perfectly. There's not any more room for error on it, and it fits in there perfectly. So that is that. So I also picked up this this Taroko design that had the same paper, had these passport rulers and grids. If you didn't have gridded paper, say, you can use these to slide under, and I don't know if you're going to see that, but you can see the grid beneath it to help you to write in a straight line. And so these are fantastic for that. So I can use this here, and that way I can write straight even though it doesn't have any lines. But it's also great because it has a ruler on either side. It wouldn't fit into here because it would stick out some, but I think it will sit in here just fine. Like I could stick that in anywhere and just bind it all up, or even just stick it in the back of the whole thing, and again bind it up, and that's going to sit in there, and I don't have to go hunting for a ruler because I do make, do lots of lines and rulers and things of that nature. So that is how you might put together a Midori. But how I'm intending to do, so this first book here is going to be, now I'm actually going to slide this out because I know I can just slide it right back onto there. So this is going to be my Wheel of the Year book. Now I've already kind of done it in another book before I decided to try to fit 5 in, and then went for smaller paper. So I already have, oops, no, this is the wrong one. That's my workings book over here. So I've already kind of figured out how I wanted to do it, but I wanted to change how I did the year energies, and so because I'm doing a smaller book than a full one, I'm going to break the pages down into 4 lines each. So what I'm going to do here is recreate this and then add what I wanted to do. So I don't worry about neatness or fanciness. These are, it's one of the things I've learned with my bullet journal, is that for me personally, if I'm going to use it, it's not an art project for me. It can be, and they're amazing, but for me personally, this is about using it. And so I don't really worry too much about being fancy. There may be mess ups. It doesn't have to be neat handwriting. I don't have neat handwriting. So this is my Wheel of the Year and Year Ahead 2019. And I'm just making note of my decks that I used. So I used the El Goliath Tarot and the Animal Spirit. Now there's a couple different animal spirits that I own, so I'm making sure that I put animal spirit knowledge cards, because those are the ones that I initially used, even though I may pull out from various places throughout the year, just so I have track of it. Now, the fountain pen that I generally use dries extremely fast. I don't even have to think about it. This dries really fast as well, but I do have to think about it. I'll give it a second because I did smear some things, but it does dry up. This is the ink that comes with the Midori. I think it's the only ink you can use for the Midori fountain pen, is the Traveler's black cartridges, but it does dry quite quickly. I haven't tested it yet for water fastness or anything like that. So that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to jump right into my lines. And so I want to do this in fourths. Since I've already done it in fourths, I just want to see if this would somewhat line up so I don't have to go, yeah. So I'm just going to put a little dot here, and I'm going to put a little dot here, and I'm going to go with this one. Again, I could count all of that, and let's just see if we're anywhere close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, yep, that worked out. And so, what I'm going to do is I am going to, let's say I should probably start with the year energy. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so it's going to go a little bit into the top one, but I am okay with that. So I'm going to write along the top. My year energy is the Emperor, the Emperor, nowadays, and my Geomancy was Fortuna Major. So I'm going to put the Emperor, nowadays, and I'm just going to put Fortuna F major because I know what that is. So I'm going to be checking in with, for each month, how those year energies actually played out for me. And so my intention is, at the end of January, I'm just going to touch in with, again, nothing. I'm not leaving myself a lot of room. My point isn't to wax poetic about it. If it is, then I will do that in the journal pages, but just a sort of a synopsis of how those energies have impacted during that month. Just a touchback, a retrospective. So that is for the year energy. So the Emperor stays all year, Nowadays stays all year, and Fortuna Major stays all year. And so I'm going to keep those in place. The next ones that I'm going to do the same exact thing for are going to be the animals. And so these are going to follow the wheel of the year. So again, though, I'm going to have the same, give myself the same amount of space, because this is just a retrospective quick note. If I want to write long about it, it will be in the journal section. So that is going to wrap up those energies. And then that brings us to the month cards. And so I'm just going to stick up here monthly and do the exact same thing. So I've got all my recaps, which I've already talked about, so I won't say it again. And then it will just go into a really kind of a journal, so that when I do a reading for myself, I can pop a little note in, like I've already done for, but I'll have to re-put in here, but I've already done for when I pulled my reading on 12/21. When I did these actual readings, I did write a little something, and so I will re-put that in there, and then just whenever it stops, whenever I write the next reading, I even have the graph so that I can graph out what the reading looked like if I wanted to, and so all the way through, and if I fill this up, I'll get a fresh one and start adding to it. So that's how I'm going to sort of recap through my animals, my yearly energy and my monthly energy, and then also then track or be able to write quick synopsises about all the different quick readings that I do for myself instead of having them sort of disappear into the ether. So just some ideas. Again, most of this idea of recapping is something I definitely took from my friend Patrick. And then I've talked about ways in which you can set the cards out so that you make sure you're touching back with, because generally a year ahead or a wheel of the year kind of thing, it's not a one and done kind of reading, right? Its purpose isn't, or at least for me, its purpose isn't to just see that reading in that moment, but to touch in with those energies along the course of the year. And so setting out ways in which you can get yourself into checking in with those energies, I think will help you get the most out of that reading that you do for yourself. And as I said, it's a chunky fit right now, but that will wonderfully stretch to accommodate. I've seen people with a ton, so I know that that's going to accommodate itself as we go. And you can even, if you pull, like if I pull this middle section out a little bit, which lets those others sit back a little way. There's things you can do like that. And I can, if I don't find myself using the craft to slide notes into, I can take that out and make it fit even better. But some of that is where I'm going to have to, like, oh, I need to buy such and such, and I want to have room to sort of keep track of things that I need to pick up and that sort of stuff. So for now, this is how I'm setting it up. So I hope that this was of some interest to you and may give you some ideas. Again, you don't need a Midori to do so. I was, lovely gifted this lovely here, but you can use this, do that, the same concept in any kind of a journal. On your phone, there's some great apps. The one that I use on iOS is called Day One, and I do use that for readings. Like if I've done a reading for myself, I will snap a picture of it, maybe put a sentence in there and save that to the day. That is a great way to do something like that digitally. But there are certain things that I do like to sit down with pen and paper, and so I'm a big fan of that. But I'm not, I find, at least the older I get, I'm just not a big fan of journaling for great lengths of time on my own things. I just want a synopsis, and I think this is going to work perfectly for that. So very excited. We'll see how it goes. We'll check in later and in the year and see how it's working out. One of the nice things about like a Midori or something, you can get faux versions of these. You can make, there's all kinds of videos on how to make these out of faux leather or faux vinyl or all kinds of things. I know our Michaels in the United States has a real nice set of faux ones of the full size Midoris that are quite cheap, but they are actually pretty nice that you can get for pretty cheap. And so there's lots of different ways in which you can do it. But one of the nice things about these interchangeable books is that if partway, let's say 2-3 months down the road, this isn't working for me, one of these things isn't working, I can take it out and put a new one in, and it hasn't ruined my entire journal. So that's one of the nice things about a interchangeable system like this. So there you go. There you have it. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of your last couple days. This is what I like to do. At the end of the year, I'm setting up my, which I put a video or a picture up, but I'm setting up my 2019 bullet journal, which has my, got my year at a glance. I've got some of my business things. I've started the month of January. I've got I do for all of the weeks ahead for the month, so I can forward plan, because this is how my bullet journal, I did a video on this, is very precise. It's cutting itself into a well-oiled machine, and I do not mess with it. So I've got this set up to, look at that lovely elephant. This is what I'm switching into for my bullet journal from my Bear one, the same brand, it's Dingbats. Again, I'll put links to anything that I can in the description box. They are not affiliated links. I'm not getting anything for you clicking them. But that's sort of my daily life, my practical everyday life, and this is a little bit more of my intentional living life. Look how lovely they look. So anyways, I hope that you've enjoyed this. And this is what, oh, I know what I was saying. My point was, this is what I like to spend the last few days of December doing, is all that kind of preparing for rolling into the first of the year with a fresh start on paper things, my sacred space, my cubicles, everything gets a refresh so that I go into January 1st with this kind of cleansed palette and ready to face 2019. So let me know in the comments what you do to get ready for 2019, and or what how maybe you work with your year ahead. If you've got some ideas on keeping actively involved in your year ahead or your wheel of the year, if you use them, and so forth, I would love to see those things. And I'll talk to you all later.